Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome back to OTB. Getting excited. Got Coach O coming up here at 7:30. Talk about spring scrimmage number 2. It is in the books. I thought talking to Austin Thomas yesterday was kind of interesting, Jake. There were a couple things that he touched on that I think could be pretty exciting about this football team. One of them was the interior defensive line. When you look, this defensive line, which has been really... I mean, that had to be one of the core projects of O when he took over this job, not just because it's his wheelhouse, but, I mean, you can speak to this even more than I can. Nick Saban built championships in Baton Rouge through the defensive line. Like, Eventually that talent trickled out everywhere and every position group got good, but it looked like the core, at the heart of the foundation, it was those, the Lavallee, Dorsey, all the names, Marcus Spears, Claude Roten, Kyle Williams,
Marquise Hill.
Marquise Hill. Like the names go on, and these are legendary names because it was crazy to have that much talent amassed at one time in one position group. And you look at the tail that it left behind in terms of legacy, and it extended all the way into the end of my days, where you still had like Michael Brockers and Benny Logan and multiple NFL guys on the same team. I don't know that LSU has had that in a while now, especially now when Coach took over the job, and it looks like it's been a long process to start to rebuild that. And now when you look, okay, you got some upperclassmen that are really solid with like infinite experience in Glenn Logan and Neil Farrell. You got guys on the edge who are definitely NFL guys in Ali Gaye and BJ Ojulari, which are a mixture of young and old as well. And then you've got some supremely talented young players that look like NFL players as well, and Jaquelin Roy, year 2, which I cannot wait for. And then there's a lot of Mason Smith buzz out there. So, like, if you're talking about rebuilding, the glory days, the lines of LSU's past, it looks like they are slowly but surely accomplishing that process.
Even 2019, when you look at that national championship, obviously Tyler Shelvin, Rashard Lawrence, Kayvon Chason was on the edge on that. So, I mean, they weren't necessarily the stars on that team because of all the offensive firepower, because of Derek Stingley doing what he was doing and to become an All-American as a true freshman. But you had really good players. You had pros in the middle of your defense, and I think that's what you have to have. And it's an old cliche, the game's won in the trenches. Look, in the SEC, I realize that we've got high-powered offensive now. Like, that is what the SEC is. It's no longer 21, 12 personnel and running the football, but you still want to control the line of scrimmage. And look at Alabama's team last year, that offensive line that they had. They controlled the line of scrimmage. They gave Mac Jones a pocket. They gave Najee Harris running lanes, and that is one of the reasons why they were able to be so successful.
Well, I mean, if anybody's kind of rolling their eyes at, trench stuff or look, cliches are such for a reason a lot of times, right? And it's because they are rooted in truth. And even I, Jake, who I should know better, I fell into the trap of pride and thinking I knew better and hubris, and I didn't care that both the Kansas City Chiefs starting tackles are out for the Super Bowl. It didn't matter because Pat Mahomes was that incredible. Like, you could not do anything to stop Pat Mahomes, even if you were able to consistently pressure him. Lo and behold, that is not true. The eternal maxim remains true, okay? If you can get to the quarterback, I don't care how good he is, you can't disrupt him. Like, I think Pat Mahomes is easily the best football player on the planet, and he not only looked human, but he really struggled with Shaq Barrett and JPP in his face all night long.
He ran for over 400 yards before he threw a pass in the Super Bowl. Yeah. That's how much he was running for his life. And he tried. I mean, he tried to look like the dodgeball character when he was throwing.
He got his
jumping sideways, and he tried everything he could. But when you don't have that protection, even the best football player, to your point, is going to not only look human, but you're going to be able to tell the stress that he's going through.
So maybe, look, I mean, you're never going to get back to, and even Saban, when he was talking to the Louisiana High School Coach Association, was talking about this, where you're never going to get back to the defenses of old. Okay, like, gone are the day of your elite defenses holding a team to 10 points a game and sub 300 yards. Like, that's not going to be consistent anymore. But what you can do defensively, you can still, I mean, really, like 18 points. You hold somebody like 18 points, that's really damn good. That would put you near the top of the country. But you can make these big situational plays, and you can come up with plays that kill drives, and mainly that's in the form of sacks and tackles for loss. They are drive killers. I mean, Jake, I'm sure when you all were in the league, they used to read you out all the stats about like the percentage chance that you have of scoring after you give up a sack or even after something like a pre-snap penalty, like a false start, and it plummets. It nearly kills the percentage chance of finishing that drive in the end zone. And so when you're talking about being an elite modern defense, that's what you have to do. You have to create havoc, okay? And LSU was all right at times last year. They were so porous on the back end, though, that it really didn't matter a lot of times. But I think they're ready to take that next step. And with guys like Gaye, who I watched get better and better and better last year, B.J. Ojulari, who was already an effective pass rusher as a freshman, you got to imagine that he's going to get, take a huge step forward this offseason. And then, again, that interior pushing the pocket, setting those guys up on the edge. Like, yes, this is a defensive line that looks like they could be one of the most disruptive in the SEC and maybe one of the most disruptive in the country.
Now, obviously, we start talking about young guys because all of the young guys were five-star guys. They were game changers. They're going to be game changers, hopefully, in college like they were in high school. But don't forget, you had the perfect mixture of young and old. Like Neil Farrell is a senior, right? When you look at Glenn Logan, he's a senior as you'll find. Okay,
you look at his like 6 year or something,
right? And you look at like Joseph Evans. Like Joseph Evans is someone who played a lot of football last year, and Coach O always talks about him.
Yeah, wait, so is he back on the D line now?
Right now, he's.
I didn't even realize that.
He's defensive front. So you've got so much talent. That's why yesterday we're like, hey, maybe for certain situations, maybe you can put an extra defensive tackle in there that has pass rush ability there on the edge to make you a little bit more physical. You have options. It's the deepest group on this team, and I really don't think there's any question about it. So you've got options now. You got to keep everybody happy. We understand that, but the best is going to rise to the top, and you're going to have 4 or 5 guys in that rotation because the defensive tackle position rotates more than any other position on the football field. It always happens. I mean,
keep the big boys fresh.
Hey, they like to tap the head. Hey, coach, I need 2. Give me 2.
That's an all-effort job. The playing D-tackle, really all of defense. But, absolutely, man. Having a deep defensive line is one of the greatest built-in advantages you can have because all of a sudden an offense cannot wear you down, right? The D-line that I always go back to, unfortunately, is that old Alabama Jonathan Allen D-line where I think they were like 3 deep of basically NFL guys, and it made them unstoppable because you couldn't erode them. They maintained their level of play through the fourth quarter, which normally doesn't happen, right? Because it's just really hard to build up that kind of depth. And so you break down by games in. LSU can look to insulate themselves in a similar way this year because of all the depth that they have defensively. So we'll certainly talk to Coach O about that next, pick his brain on the defensive line amongst a bunch of, Jay Ward, I liked hearing his name crop up yesterday. Like we said, became a playmaker. What's the vision for him? Dabbling in safety, more bug strong, and then what else stood out in that scrimmage. So coming up next here on Off the Bench, we will talk to LSU head football coach Ed Orgeron. Keep it locked right here on 104.5 ESPN.